Hi. Today we're talking about time manipulation. For most of us, we feel that time just keeps going by faster and faster every year that we live. So much so that I believe most of us feel that by the time we're in our 70s or 80s, that we think we're going to look at the clock on the wall and it's just going to be spinning around like 100 miles an hour. Now, I'm here today to tell you that that is not true. I'm going to show you how to speed up time, how to slow down time, and how to get all the time that you want and need in your life. I'm Disclosure Dad. Let's disclose some truth. Let me be clear. There are two types of time. There is time on the wall, clock time, which is measured in hours, minutes, and seconds, which the Greek called chronos. And there's also psychological time, which is our personal perception of time, which the Greeks called kairos. For example, you're on vacation. You're having a great time. Everything's going wonderful, but the time just seems to be flying by. Your vacation is more than 2/3 over, and you're thinking, geez, I just got here. I've been planning for this trip my whole year, and somehow it's almost over. Or in the other extreme, you're back in elementary school, and it's 2:55 p.m. and school's over at 3, and you're staring up at the wall watching that red second hand go around ever so slowly, and you're thinking, why is it that the last 5 minutes of school seem to take longer than the whole previous hour? And you're not alone in feeling that way. Now, regardless of how analytical you might consider yourself to be, I would argue that the time on the wall is a lot less important than how you feel or your personal experience of time. Obviously, yes, we got to get to work or school on time, but your experience of time is very personal and very flexible. A few years ago, I had an experience, which I may share more fully in a future episode, in which my perception of time changed overnight. What used to feel like an hour suddenly felt like 2 or more. What was 2 or 3 days suddenly felt like a week or more. My perception of time had slowed dramatically. I can only relate it to like maybe how you felt like time passed when you were 8 years old. It was crazy. But more importantly than that is I knew why it had changed and specifically how it had changed. So if you're interested in this episode, I'm going to show you the secret of how to speed up, or more importantly, slow down time, the perception of time in your life. All right, so what's the secret? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The more focused, more present, more aware that you are right now and in every moment, the slower your perception of time will be. The more unfocused, more unaware, more zoned out that you are, the faster your perception of time will be. And it's really just that simple. However, I did learn one very inconvenient truth. It turns out that no matter how good you get at being able to be focused to slow down time or being unfocused to speed time up, you can't switch back and forth rapidly. It takes days or even weeks to switch from one mode to the other. So it's not really practical to be able to have time go by fast while you're at work during the week and then slow down for the weekends. It just doesn't work that way. Which means you have to choose. Do you want your life to fly by, or do you want it to go slow enough that you can genuinely enjoy it and have long weekends, long evenings, and nice long vacations? However, the price you have to pay is that work, your work life or school or whatever you're doing that you don't like, is also going to take a lot longer. It's just the cost of playing the game. This is why so many people feel like their life is flying by. They learned unconsciously to be a little bit zoned out, a little bit on autopilot in their lives, and that by doing so actually made the perception or the experience of doing something they dislike, like work or school, go by faster. So it is a win of sorts. But the curse is you're stuck with it, regardless of whether it's a weekend or vacation or work. The time is going to go by super fast, which of course results in people complaining and having the experience of their life just flying by at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So the question is, how do we slow down time? It's actually pretty simple. You need to switch from what I call read mode into write mode. What is read mode? Read mode means that you are so familiar with your world, your life, your work, your job, etc., that you're not really writing any new memories anymore. You're just reading the old ones. Your whole life is been there, done that. You've seen it before, you've done it before, and you're not experiencing life anymore. You're just remembering the life that you've already lived. You're not looking to write new memories. You're just reading the old ones. Write mode means writing new memories. So what does that feel like? So imagine you're on vacation. Everything is new. You remember everything, riding on the bus, the train, the plane. Maybe you look around taking pictures. You're enjoying all the sights, the smells, the tastes. Everything is new. You're writing all kinds of new memories. And many people are surprised when they get back after a vacation, when weeks, months, or even years later, that they can remember the intimate details of a 2-week vacation better than they can remember many of the details of their regular life. This is write mode. And to clarify, the only reason your vacations don't feel longer now is because in between making all those new memories, you're still zoning out and being unfocused, which overrides all the new memories you're making, because being unfocused, being on autopilot is your normal way of being. We need to change that. But how do we change? Start writing new memories. Start looking around. When you drive to work, the same drive you do every single day, look for something new every time. Look for something you haven't seen before. Look a little further to the left, to the right, up, down. See something you didn't see before. In your home, look around for things you don't normally notice, whether they be nice things, the flowers from last week, or the stain on the carpet you went over looking for months. In your normal life, start looking around and writing new memories. The point is to write new memories all the time. The more you do it, the more you'll notice time slowing down. Give it a few weeks, practice it. But it's really just that simple. Be focused and write new memories all the time. Believe it or not, it's possible to be in write mode full time. Make it a habit, and you're going to gain more time than you thought possible, which is actually pretty cool. Now that you know time is flexible, we can actually start to have a little bit of fun with it. How would you like to take a nap for 2 minutes and be rested for the next, 2.5 hours or more? It's actually something called a hyper nap. I learned about these back years ago. Didn't really start practicing it until I got into college. And I would, at the time I was commuting, I would take me like an hour or more to get to school. And I oftentimes showed up with 10 minutes before I had to go to class. Like most students, typically wiped out from being up too late the night before. But I would put my elbow on my center console, put my head in my hand, and close my eyes and allow myself to fall asleep the same way that I did when I was going to bed at night. Just allow everything to just go. And I could fall asleep. With some practice, I was able to fall completely asleep. And the shocking thing was that, especially the first couple times I did this, I would wake up after what I thought, oh my God, the alarm didn't go off. And I'd realize that only 2 minutes had gone by. Or I'd fall back asleep, another 2 minutes would go by, I'd wake up and be like, oh my gosh, how is it possible that 10 minutes can feel like so much longer? The reality is it's the perception of time, like we talked before. So play with it. It's kind of fun. I highly recommend hyper naps. And yes, I have done 2-minute naps, just 2 minutes, that gave me more than 2 hours plus of feeling awake and alert, which was actually really nice. Highly recommended. Another interesting way to experience time is what's called flow state. Flow state is really interesting. Flow state is when time can be feeling like it speeds up really fast or slows down rather dramatically. It's kind of crazy. Actually, my wife and I had a really interesting experience of this when she was pregnant with my son. She did 17 hours of labor. And during that time, she wanted to walk a lot, which kind of made sense. Kind of needed to move. But it was completely bizarre. We would walk for 5 minutes. We'd look at the clock and an hour had passed. We'd walk another 5 minutes. We look at the clock and another hour had passed. We did this 16 times in a row. It was insane. Both of us were commenting, like, what the heck is going on? It's like we were literally in a time distortion. But knowing what I know now, that is based on what's called the flow state. We were both very focused on the labor, clearly, and our whole sense of time shifted more dramatically than I've ever felt in my life. Another type of flow state is time dilation, which is the experience of like bullet time for the Matrix, where everything slows down. And this can happen during like a car accident or in extreme sports, or sometimes when you're focusing really, really intently, like even playing like an online game, some people can get into this state of time just dilating. It's very interesting. Time is very flexible. There are also other types of flow states. One of them is something called deep time. It's when the past, the present, and the future all seem to just coalesce into one moment. It's the experience of timelessness, which is sometimes reported by mystics and people in certain very highest states. Another type of flow state is something called autotelic nature, which is when the sense of just what you're doing is so compelling and that you don't notice the pass of time. For gardeners, for example, will feel this way, or like me, frankly, when I'm editing video, I will get into a state where hours pass. I don't even realize it feels like a very short amount of time because I'm just in the zone. The last type of flow state is called effortless momentum. It's kind of wild. There's an author and researcher, Dr. David R. Hawkins, who, when he was a teenager, he's a 90-pound weakling, by his own account. He had a job working at a peach cannery factory. And in this factory, he had to take 70-pound crates and move them from one place to another in 100-degree heat for hours on end, with apparently no ventilation and no air conditioning. It was pretty bad conditions. This is like in the 40s, years ago. He discovered that if he got to the last crate he could possibly lift, where he literally could not lift one more crate, but then he forced himself to lift that one last crate, that the next crate was weightless. It was featherweight. And in the next one after that, and the next one after that, he could work for hours without getting tired. No strain, no effort. It was an absolute breakthrough. And he's not alone. Athletes have reported this, where they can get to a point where they push past what they believe to be their limits, and suddenly it's effortless. Everything just moves effortless. The flow, there's no perception of time, there's no perception of effort, there's no perception of heat in his case. It's really amazing, or it sounds amazing. I've never experienced it. I don't know if I'm willing to lift that many peach crates, but it's pretty cool. Time clearly is more flexible and more interesting than probably most of us ever really considered. Time on the clock is how we make and keep agreements. Time as an experience is personal, flexible, and under our personal control. I strongly recommend you take some time to experiment with speeding up and slowing down your experience of time. Please leave a comment below. Let me know how that goes. Also, like and subscribe. I'm Disclosure Dad. Let's disclose some truth together.